Hey everybody, Kathy Klotz-Guest here from Keep It a Human, and I want to talk about 7 communication archetypes that are non-human and they destroy value for your audience. Whether it's sales, it's marketing, whether it's a blog post, an email, a phone call, any way that you're communicating with your audience, there's ways to add value and there's ways that destroy value. And we need to think about the way that we communicate as human or not human, and adding value or destroying it. So I want to talk about it. This goes back to a blog post that I wrote last year for LinkedIn, and had some pretty good reaction from people on LinkedIn on some of the archetypes. So the first archetype, that's the base toucher. The base toucher leaves voicemails. Hey, just touching base. Emails. Hey, just touching base. Get your hands off my base and stop trying to get in my marketing pants. Right? Because I think the only good base touching, as a general rule, is in baseball. But you're not adding any value unless you can actually say to your customer, hey, I've got some new information. There's no need to say I'm touching base. Think about all the people that actually leave the same voicemail or email for your customer or your prospect, somebody you're trying to reach. It really does not add value at all. So a better way to do it is to call maybe your audience member, your prospect, whoever it is, and say, do you have any questions that I can answer? I know you probably have a lot to consider. If there's anything that I can simplify for you, give me a call. Let's chat. Much better. The second archetype I call the beaches unilateralist. So if you'll remember the movie, and ladies will, I don't know, men, you might not. If you remember the Barbara Hershey movie with Bette Midler, Beaches, there's a point where, Barbara Hershey's character is sick, and she's sort of more the introvert, and Bette Midler's character is the effervescent, outgoing friend, and they're really good friends, and Bette Midler just goes on and on and on about her life, and she finally turns to Barbara Hershey and says, well, that's just enough about me. What do you think of me? And so the Beaches unilateralist communicates kind of one way. They want to tell you all about themselves, and there's no reciprocity. There's no bilateral exchange. It's really not a conversation. They just want a data dump. And I have a general rule. A better way to handle it is I have a 75-80% you, your, maybe ours, maybe if the circumstances are right, but really 80% should be focused on you and yours. And the other 20% is mine, my, ours. If that ratio is flipped and 80% of your communication is focused on you lost something in translation because you're really not focusing on your audience. So flip that ratio, 80% you, 20% me. That's how you get rid of that beaches mentality. So don't do it. Then another archetype is what I call the data overwhelmer. I'm looking at my blog post. You can find it on LinkedIn. It's one that I did last year. And it's the data overwhelmer says, well, gosh, if one idea is good, then 100 ideas is better. And you see these blog posts that are like 100 ways to blah, blah, blah. Sometimes those can be helpful, but a lot of times it's mind-numbing. There's too many options, and that can be kind of overwhelming. You may have 20 things that you do for your customers potentially, but there's probably one thing that's the biggest pain point for your audience at this particular time. Start there, get some credibility, and then worry about the other things later. So don't overwhelm your customers. It's easy to fall into that trap. So conquer the first problem before you offer to help with all the others. And going in and saying, I can help with all these different things. Well, establish a beachhead strategy, help them with that one main thing, and then graduate into these other things. The fourth type of communicator that destroys value and isn't very human. I call this communicator the jargonstipator. Because the jargonstipator likes to hide behind all these BS terms and all this jargon and adds absolutely no value. And actually, I would change that. I don't think they are neutral. They actually, I think, destroy value because they waste your time. They waste your time, and then they leave the burden of figuring out what they said to you. And clarity is always the communicator's burden. I'll say it again. Clarity is always the communicator's burden. It is not the burden of the audience to figure out what you're actually saying. So jargon isn't good. And it tells me, when I hear jargon, that a communicator doesn't have a really good story. So get rid of the jargon. Get rid of the jargonstipator. Instead, stop. Stop and ask questions. That's a really great segue. If you see you lost somebody, ask questions. But if they communicate like that before, sometime in the sales process, that's how they're going to communicate when you're a client. So that's exactly what your customer is thinking is, oh boy, I'm just opening the door to more jar constipation, and I don't need it. I don't need more jargon monoxide poisoning, as I always say. So get rid of the jar constipator. Use simple words. Reframe it in the way that the customer uses it. If a customer is using certain words, if your audience uses certain words, take note. Those words are important. Repeat back to your customer because they're using those certain words for a reason. Listen up. All right, the fifth type of communicator. Look what we do. Look what we do. We can do that too, artist. Look what I can do, Mom. I can do 20 different things. I can do 100 different things. And again, it's you cannot be an expert in all those things. I'm a storyteller. I help people with their content strategy, their storytelling strategy. Of course, I do more than that. I also facilitate. I do creative facilitation. I'm a speaker. And across everything that I do, I use improvisation and humor to unlock ideas. But improv is just a toolbox. It's a set of tools for me. I don't need to overwhelm a prospect in the beginning with all the things I could do. So again, it's like the data overwhelmer, but we do that. Slow down, everybody. Slow your roll. If you're telling me you're an expert in 10 different things, probably you're not. So just slow your roll and pick one or two things and establish that beachhead strategy. So that's really important. Number 6, the long-winded annoyer. The long-winded. This is the one that says when you're in the middle of having a conversation, they want to show you a PowerPoint that has 30 slides, and you're like, okay, whoa, why don't you just give me the top 3 things that you do? Let's just fast forward. We can skip all these slides, and they want to say to you, oh, well, I'm not done yet. When I'm done, I'll take questions when I'm done with my presentation. That is incredibly annoying, and it's not human, and you've actually just lost the sale and the connection. What your audience is saying to you is, that's not working for me. I've got an urgent need, and that isn't even being addressed in anything you're presenting. We have a mismatch. We're out of alignment. And when you tell your prospect or your customer to, hold on, I'll get to your questions when I'm done. What you're saying is, I've got something really important to say. I'm important. Your questions, your need, and your time aren't. Oh, big mistake. And yet I see people do this and I just want to go, oh boy, don't do it. Excuse me. Never make your audience feel that their questions come second. Their questions actually come first. So if they want to stop. Don't do a presentation anyway. I can't remember the last time I actually sold using a presentation. Ever. I have a human conversation. Put the PowerPoints away. When bullets are flying, someone's going to get hurt. So don't use PowerPoint presentations, please. All right. Finally, the last archetype that destroys value, the complicator. The complicator makes everything so complicated. You'll ask a question and you'll get a 20-minute explanation, or you'll ask about something and they want to explain every ounce of minutia of their methodology and their how and their process, and none of that matters. None of that really matters. How they get the job done really doesn't matter. So, but they overcomplicate, and this is a problem because what it signals to your audience is, wow, if that's what this is like, if every communications with this person or this company is going to be this painful, imagine what that's going to be like magnified and amplified when I become a customer. How much more so is the burden of deciphering everything going to fall on me, which means everything's going to be a big pain in the ass with this particular company or consultant or whoever, with this business. So be mindful about the way that you communicate with customers, because everything leading up to that sale says to them how you're going to communicate, what you're going to be like to work with, how you're going to do business, your ethics, how easy or how complicated you make everything. So throw out the complicator, be human, all those things. All right, everybody, 10 minutes or less. These are some new video series that I'm doing. You can pick up a few things. If you want to see other things, let me know. Kathy at keepingithuman.com. I'm keeping it human, so you keep it human out there too. Bye, everybody.